All right, welcome to another edition of The Secret Is You. This is Chris Cicchinelli, and today we have an amazing person that's joining us today. We have Mr. Mark Schulman that's going to be here with us and talking a lot about how to make sure you're out there finding your passion. What's going on? What is the thing that you need to do to find the secret inside of you? That's what we talk about here. Also trying to make sure we give you the best advice that we can every day here inside The Secret Is You. All right, Mark, what's going on? People are excited. I'm excited. Give a little bit of background about yourself. What's going on? We need to know.
Oh, Chris, what's up, man? That was a great intro. Little background. Well, my day job, I'm the drummer for Pink, and I also do a lot of corporate speaking. My background is I just always, ever since I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, I saw John and Paul and George. I was like 2 years old. I'm like, that's incredible. Then I saw Ringo and all the screaming girls. I'm like, I want that. So drums chose me, and I just played in bands my entire life, and didn't even graduate from college, and then eventually got into just studying with a man who's actually been my mentor for 35 years, Dr. Jim Samuels, co-writing my second book with me on the power of attitude. And I became a student of life and just a chronic learner. And I began giving music clinics, and after a while I realized that music clinics could translate very well if I took a lot of the information stories and applied it to the collegiate world first, then the corporate world. So then I ended up taking just what I call my rock show disguised as a keynote, bringing it to the stage, and it's almost more like a one-man show than a keynote, but it has a lot of content because I always make sure that it's content relevant for all the clients. And I have clients ranging from American Express to Dell to IBM to Kaiser to you name it. So I'm just ecstatic to be in the position to be able to leverage the information, leverage my career, and also leverage the information that I've learned from studying these incredible artists with whom I played, and then using that to apply it back to the corporate world and other people's lives. And we've just been having so much fun. It's insane.
You know, I always ask people this: when did you find your passion? Because I think that's, everybody that's probably going to be watching this, listening to this, is going to say, this dude's totally passionate about what he's out there doing, what he's actually speaking about. Because there's a lot of people that just kind of go through life, right? They check off the box. They're like, oh, I just got to go get my paycheck. I got to just kind of show up. You seem like, that you're living a pretty good life and that you're very passionate about it. When did you find that passion kind of struck you and like, all right, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, here's my philosophy about passion. Now, I talk about, as a musician, there's what we play and there's how we play it. And how we play it is kind of determining what builds the passion. But what happens with passion is passion's actually fleeting. And I discovered that if you want to, because what happens if the passion wears down, or you can't muster up the passion, or God forbid the passion wears off. Because inevitably one of those three happens when it comes to passion. So there's an expansion of passion, which can actually increase and bring the passion back and actually make it sustainable, which is purpose, because purpose is why we do it. Mm-hmm. So the more you're in touch with your innate why, what happens is I discovered, and I made a decision after a conversation with Billy Idol, believe it or not, that every time I sit down at the drums, that every single note that I play matters. Every nuance matters. Like when I give a speech, every word matters. Every bit of body language, every pause matters. And what I began to discover is if I approach everything that way, that means I'm attaching a sense of purpose to every note and every nuance. And I talk about in my seminars that for the rock star performers, the great performers, there are no small moments. Every detail is critical. So if you become detail oriented, you become more purposefully oriented. The moment you have more purpose, the purpose fuels the passion, and the passion fuels the purpose. I call it a cycle of empowerment. So if you want to stay passionate, you really need to drive it with a sense of purpose. You need to really understand your why and pay attention to the nuances and the details, because negatively, they say the devil is in the details. Positively, when you're paying attention to the details and you have so much purpose, you become passionate about every single moment. and they fuel each other. So that to me is the secret and the key to passion is purpose, and then letting them feed off of each other. So every note you say matters, every word you say matters, every word you write matters, every conversation you have matters. If you treat your life that way, then everything has so much more purpose, and you really can maintain passion all the time when you have purpose attached to it, or when purpose becomes the expansion or the extension of passion.
I love the fact that you're saying this right now, because I hear so many people ask me, why is the details matter that much? Because, I always tell people you're auditioning for your next gig, which ultimately you're auditioning every day. I mean, every time you take stage, right, you are getting people to say, oh, can't wait to go back to that concert. Can't wait to go back to that. That's the same thing inside of my business. I'm like, guys, every time you hit a party, you're already got that gig. What you do at that gig is going to matter for the next gig. And the next gig after that. And people are going to say, hey, I'm going to invite that person to my house, or I'm not going to invite that person in my house. I'm going to give that person my time on Zoom, or not give that person my time on Zoom. Now, you probably have to also think about, you're probably somebody that is very into the details, somebody that's going to be, making sure they do a lot of practice. I come from a football. I played a lot of sports growing up. I coach my kids and different things.
You get it.
Yeah.
You get it.
When you look about it, how crucial is kind of practicing the details and putting time into things. Because I agree, people are losing some of their passion because they haven't maybe found what they like, or what they like to do, or what that next thing is. How does one, practice and to stay up on the details and making sure that they're going to give a great performance?
Because you decide that it matters. John Madden, the famous coach, used to say, my players work on three things: fundamentals, fundamentals, and fundamentals. And although it might be rote, although it might be repetitive, you get better every single time. And if you're really paying attention to the nuances, and that gives you the purpose, and you see the improvement, and that generates the passion.
Yep. So
paying attention to paying attention to the details is everything if you want to be passionate, because passion is if you would break it down emotionally, it's an extreme feeling, right? So to get any extreme feeling or any extreme experience, you need to be really paying a lot of attention and really nurturing those details. And it, coming from the sports background, I know it coming from the music background. And I always tell my daughter, who's 11, who actually is a fifth degree brown belt. She's she literally kicks my ass, and she's barely 80 pounds. But what I tell my daughter too is, the better you get at something, the more fun it becomes. Mm-hmm. Yep. So if you understand, if you have that end goal in mind and realize, if I pay attention to the details now, I'm going to get better and better, and I'm going to have more fun, have a greater sense of purpose and a greater sense of passion. And another thing that I really subscribe to is, we are all here to be of service. Mm-hmm. My life is a life of service. When I'm on stage, I'm there to be of service with Pink, the band, the dancers, the road crew, the audience. I'm the drummer, I'm the foundation, I'm like the shepherd, so to speak. And also, I've try to be low maintenance. So if everybody around me is happy, man, I'm happy. My wife's happy, my kid's happy. It's like, I'm happy. So my goal is to really be of service in everything I do. And that creates an even stronger sense of purpose, which makes me even more passionate. So, it's how you combine all of these components of who you are. And that's why I'm writing my next book on the power of attitude. Now, this is the real key. The real formula is A times B equals C. Attitude times behavior equals consequence. Because I live and breathe, and I'm writing my next book about it, co-authoring it with Dr. Jim Samuels, my partner, because we can't control what happens to us, as so painfully apparent by this pandemic. But at any moment in time, you have the power to change, choose, or control your attitude about what's happening to you. And that's a decision that you make moment to moment. So you have the power, like your core values stay the same, but your attitudes can change and shift constantly. It's also an adaptive point of view. But understand that that's just the foundation, because your attitudes are what drive your behaviors. I mean, think about the power in that. Yeah. So by understanding that you have the power to change, shift, and control your attitude, you can literally drive new behaviors, which then drive the consequences or outcomes of your life. So this is a very strong implication I'm making, that by shifting and controlling your attitude, you are literally modifying the outcomes of your life. That's enormously powerful. And it's so simple, literally as simple as ABC. That's why I love to distill things down to their core. Even with this pandemic, when I had 19 speaking gigs in March and April go away. 19. I was freaking out, dude. I was like, oh my God, I was scared to death. I had never done what I call my rock show disguised as a keynote virtually. So I was in a new world, a new space. And I was outside of the comfort zone, so to speak, right? And then I woke up a couple of days later and I said, what kind of pathetic story am I telling myself? And I realized it's all about how we manage change. We either embrace it or we resist it. Mm-hmm. And the moment I went from resisting to embracing the change, all of a sudden I got incredibly creative, incredibly solutions driven. And then I got excited. And now I've done dozens of virtual speeches for everybody from PepsiCo to Cisco to Rockwell, really big clients with some very, very happy clients. But it took me shifting my attitude or my mindset, however, whatever you want to call it, to simply from resisting to embracing what's going on. Because what we resist persists. We've all heard that before, but it's so true. So I developed a lot of core beliefs that guide my life and that I use on a consistent basis every day. Myself, I use these every day because it's not like I don't get down or I don't get freaked out, but I have some tools now and some basic philosophies that I can employ that will ensure that I am just on top of my game, especially when I need to be.
Yep. Well, you and I have
even a day after getting my second Fauci ouchie,
Well, I'll tell you, you and I have a lot in common. I mean, I've worked with my mom over the past 20 years, very powerful woman. I work with 250,000 very powerful women. You have worked with some very, very powerful women. But I know that one of them you've talked about already, which is Pink, that was why I'm laughing, because I'm sitting here thinking, how can Mr. Disneyland himself, which is AKA how Pink refers to you and explains you as the happiest guy in the world, actually have a down attitude? Like, that was like, I'm sitting there laughing because I'm reading this thing going, yeah, I could never see this guy being down, but it happens, right?
Well, it happens. And it's our responsibility in those moments to shift our attitudes and understand that we have the power to shift our attitudes. And it sounds very simple. It's not that it's always simple. It's just that it is very powerful. And when I give my speeches, I give very specific attitude shifts that are some of my favorites. Like literally the simplest one of all, every morning I wake up and I smile. And it sounds so corny to people, but the truth is, when you smile, you're activating hundreds of muscles in your face that literally send a signal to your body to relax, send endorphins and to your brain, and it can literally change your physiology simply by smiling. At first, it's fake, of course. It's like, but after a while, it turns real because your body will shift that way. So that's one of the simplest attitude shifts. And I also talk about how you can shift your have-tos to get-tos. Very powerful. It's just a reframe. And if you can reframe even the most mundane activities in your life, instead of saying, oh, I have to do this, or like, here's my classic example that everybody cringes at. I have to do my taxes. I think about that. Well, but I get to find out how much money I made. Mm-hmm. And then I get to be organized. So there's always a way to shift the viewpoint, shift the attitude, so you view things in a different way that benefit you, that heighten your existence, right?
You think about this, we can do those and we can smile and we can change our persona, change our attitude, get excited about the day. But, kind of listening to some of the interviews you've done, some of the things that we kind of pulled down, it's like, how does a leader, and I would consider you a leader, you change the environment when you walk in, you change the environment of the band, the dancers, everybody that's kind of around you. How can somebody really do that? Because and have that much and make it a better space for people to work in. Because there's a lot of people right now that are just so completely focused on themselves. How do you take that focus? Like, I got to be happy. I got to find my purpose. I got to have a good attitude. But how do you really showcase that and share that with others to make the environment, the entirety, happy?
Well,
And
as I
successful?
said, if you take the point of view that you're there to be of service to everybody else, first of all, it makes you my less insulated and less myopic. You're not focusing on yourself and you're not focusing on one thing, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. So I'll tell you, it's such an easy trick. The moment you start getting so self-obsessed or worried about your individual situation, if you stop and say, well, what can I do for somebody else right this moment, right at this second? And then you call a friend in need. I mean, a friend of mine got hit by a car twice.
Oh,
His son got killed in a car crash. He's constantly in pain. You know, I call him and talk to him all the time
mm-hmm.
because when I talk to them, if I talk to him, I get humbled and I can be of service to somebody that really needs it.
Mm-hmm.
Another friend of mine had cancer, and I kept on saying, "What can I do for you? What can I do for you?" And I would donate things, and I'd raise a few $100 here and there for a sign symbol. And I said, "You know what?" I woke up one morning and said, "I'm going to do a benefit concert online for this guy. I'm going to get all my friends to send in videos, and then I'm going to do a challenge." A friend of mine that has some money said, the next $5,000 we raise, I'll match it. So I raised $30,000 for this guy by just going online like I'm doing a keynote by myself, nobody in the studio, playing videos, talking about my friend's condition, because my friend had 4th stage colon cancer and it didn't really have insurance. So he was working. The guy's doing chemo and working. And I thought, no, that's just not right.
Yeah.
So I said, if I take a little bit of time, and it wasn't a lot of time, and I put together 14, 15 videos that my friends send me, advertise the concert, we raised $30,000 for him. Now he doesn't have to work.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you, that's the stuff that you can change your environment. And I will say that how you found how to be grateful in the grind or in the situation.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how do
gratitude is one of my secret weapons, man.
I mean, because that's what you really are. You're feeling grateful for your life and you're passing it on inside of the grind, inside of a pandemic, inside of like all those things you're doing. How can one find that gratefulness? Because a lot of people are so searching for that right now. They're searching to find a better attitude. They're finding this. How do you do it?
Well, as I said, I think I've given some examples of what to do. Shift your have tos to get tos,
Yep.
smile. Gratitude is a big one because even if you are sort of focused and enmeshed in the opposite of gratitude, which is scarcity.
Yeah.
So gratitude is a focus on abundance, on what you got, the money in the bank, the fuel, the tank, your wins, your solutions, your successes. Yep. Whereas the opposite is a focus on scarcity, the challenges, the problems, the fears, the blocks, the barriers. So what I do is I challenge people when I give my speeches to just stop and be committed. Just get smart enough that when you get in that funk that you're willing to stop for 1 second, think of one person, one thing for which you're grateful. Then think of somebody else, something else, then somebody else and something else. What you do is you're literally building up an arsenal. You're building up a fortress. You're fortifying yourself with gratitude. Before you know it, you've completely shifted your attitude because you've used the power of gratitude to change your mood because you're focusing on what you've got. The only way you can get more, in my opinion, or it's not the only way, that's silly because a lot of people get more and a lot of people are very selfish, but the most ethical way to get more is to be appreciative of what you've got first and to take inventory and take stock of what you have and who you are. And that gives you power. Then you're building up your arsenal, you're building up your fuel, and then that gratitude then becomes the basis for who you are. And then automatically you want to be of service because you're so grateful, you start to realize and take stock of everything that you've got. And then you go, wow, what can I do to, it's funny, my friend Kevin Neal, I was just telling you about my friend who, he's been in 2 car accidents, is calling me now.
Oh,
I'll call him later.
Yeah, like how the world of like it all kind of comes together. It's probably ears are burning, like, hey, what's going on? You think about the kind of your experience of becoming kind of a leader. I mean, because you really are. I mean, with everything we've read on everything you're doing, how did you kind of change from being that kind of moving into that leader role versus kind of being the not just an individual performer? I mean, like in getting your mind wrapped around that.
Well, I've always been really in support of everybody else because I've been a quote unquote sideman, a hired gun. I'm in this part of this documentary called Hired Guns, which is musicians like me that were the side people. So in other words, it really is about Pink or Stevie Nicks or Billy Idol or Cher or Foreigner or Velvet Revolver, all the people I played with. So on one hand, because they are the leaders of the band, but also there's this philosophy among drummers, a little secret sort of belief system that we have, that we are kind of the leaders in a way because we're the foundation, because everything's built on us. So I believe that everybody can look at themselves as being in a leadership position if they take that responsibility, because being a great leader is really taking responsibility and culpability and being of service. Because to me, the best leaders on the planet are the ones who do take responsibility, are absolutely of service, and go out of their way to make sure that everybody around them is taken care of. Great examples when, Pink nearly died when she was doing So What, she goes up and she flies around, and one of the carabiner clips was not hooked in properly, and she got dragged across the stage, pulled off the side of the stage and get up against the side rail. I thought she was dead. Ooh. And, it was literally a near absolute catastrophe. And of course, she's built like a truck, so she didn't break any bones. She crawled back onto the stage to apologize to the audience when it was so obvious that she didn't need to, but she took responsibility. And there were 225 people on the road, and not one person got reprimanded or lost their job, because she decided, look, I'm the leader, I'm responsible, ultimately we'll work this out, but I'm not gonna have somebody fired because there was a mistake in the protocol. Whereas other leaders, other people might have said, I want somebody's head, not her.
Yeah.
She didn't approach it that way. She took the responsibility. That's what a great leader does. So if you're culpable and you are really looking out for your team, for your band, so to speak, then you're acting as a leader because you're taking responsibility for what is yours, and you are then serving others, because the greatest leaders serve others. I mean, Simon Sinek's book is, leaders eat lunch last. Yeah. So if you believe in, I believe in that philosophy. So I don't believe in worshiping or serving a leader. I believe the leader is there to serve everybody else. So that, to me, personally, is great leadership.
Well, I will tell you, a lot of people will be frustrated if I don't ask this question, because they need to know. There are so many people from leadership that says, oh man, I'm so nervous in front of getting up and talking to people. I feel really good in my own space, my own area, my own environment. I don't know if I could do this whole Zoom and get on and up in front of people and talk. Our business pre-COVID, right, was they would take stage with 10 people in front of them and have to do a party in somebody's house. Yeah. How does one overcome this, fear of the stage or stage fright? Because a lot of people get paralyzed by having to do this. I mean, I remember my first talk. Oh my goodness. I got a D in public speaking, right? And now I got to go up and deliver our new compensation plan. I just started. I'm 25. I'm sweating to death. And like it's coming through every orifice of my body. I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. When people ask me, how did you overcome it? I'm like, I just did it as many times as I possibly can, but you're a professional. What would be that take that you would say, hey, this is how you overcome that stage fright?
I did write a book. My first book's called Conquering Life Stage Fright, 3 Steps to Top Performance. It's available on Amazon. I'm not trying to sell the book, but if someone really wants to find out detailed information, but I'll be really brief about it. Essentially, it's built on three basic concepts. The 3 C's: clarity, capability, confidence. You need to have as crystal clear goal as you possibly can. The more clear you are with your goal or your goals, then you know exactly what it is that you want to say and you want to communicate. And then you need to truly develop the capability. You understand from sports, you need to put in those 10,000 hours, right? When you have clarity about your goal and then you develop the capability, that's what brings you to true confidence, the 3rd C. Now, what happens is we still might feel some stage fright, some anxieties, the deleterious stage fright, the extreme stuff that distracts us. But if you are prepared, and I interviewed a bunch of people for my book. I love the way Tony Hsieh talked about it. He said, I always have a go-to story because I'm always jittery for the first 45 seconds. Tony Hsieh, rest in peace. He was the CEO of Zappos, a friend of mine. But so he has this go-to story that he knows so well that lets his nerves calm down because he knows his stuff. He's prepared. Look, if you get on stage, you get up to talk to people and you're not prepared, you should be nervous. You should be nervous as hell because you're unprepared. So the key is really in the preparation, and then you're developing real confidence. False confidence can be very, very dangerous. So that's one example. The other thing I want to say is, if you're getting up there and you are so self-obsessed that you're so worried about yourself, who the hell are you thinking about? You. Well, who should you be thinking about? Them. And that was one of the big anxiety breakers for me when I laughed hysterically at myself and said, how selfish can I be? I'm not here to talk. I'm here to be of service. Again, gets back to the servicing. If I truly know that I am there and like, well, you know, I always do, like, I don't call it a prayer, call it a mantra, whatever, but before every single speech I ever give, I always just say, I want to be of service. I want to move these people to take action. I want this to exceed their expectations. Everything I say is not about me. Yeah. It's about how I'm going to, what I'm going to produce for them, the experience I'm going to produce for them. So if you make it about them, again, for the great leadership, it's all the same stuff, whether you're giving a speech, whether you're leading, regardless of what you're doing, you're making it about everybody else, then you're drawing the attention away from yourself, and you don't have time to be nervous or get so self-absorbed because that's not your focus anymore. Your focus is truly about everybody else, which is where it should be anyway, you know?
I could tell you, well, listen, last question, because I know we're coming up on time and I really want to, you know, get this in is you kind of made, you know, the mindset or mastering your mind, kind of your journey, it seems like. I mean, like just some of the things you're talking about and being purposeful and being grateful. I guess how much work does one have to put into themselves? Is this I know you smile every day. Do you have a daily routine to kind of keep yourself in this kind of mindset with the world that's around us, with everything that's kind of going on? A lot of people really get down. They get depressed. They don't find happiness. They don't find that positive attitude. Is it like a muscle? Do we have to work it every day? What is your philosophy?
And I'll tell you my daily routine in the morning, what I do. I mean, I'm going to give you my whole routine, but I would give you one last thing that I do that I learned from Dr. Jim, which is the WINS formula. So I get up, I smile, and I immediately do my WINS formula. WINS stands for W is wins, I is improvements, N is next wins, S is what is the state you want to create. So the way that you remind yourself of your successes and the way that you put yourself in the mindset and the attitude of having more successes and wins is to recall your wins, big and small. So I always write down every single win I could think of from the day before, from the smallest win to the biggest win. Right?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you're in this mindset of, okay, yeah, I had some wins. That was a better day than I thought. Then you're more open to the improvements. You think about what could I improve? How could I make improvements? And so then you write down your improvements. And N is you forecast your next wins for today. I do it in the morning. Sometimes you could do it at night. You could do it morning and night. And then you're setting yourself up. And you write down these wins like, this is what I am going to achieve. And it keeps you focused on your accomplishments and your wins rather than the challenges. And then probably the most important one is, what is the state I want to create today? And you focus on that state. For me, it's usually joy. It might be confidence. It might be focus. It might be joyful, focused confidence. I might change it up. It depends on where I am in that particular day. Usually it's joy, because if I'm joyful, then everything else works. But I immediately set up my day. And it's so simple. Such an amazing and powerful formula. I do it every single morning.
Mark, I can tell you right now.
Sometimes I skip Sundays.
Dude, yeah, take off Sundays. I mean, Mark, I really, really, truly appreciate you coming on The Secret Is You. It's amazing to have you. I know more than anything, our Pure Romance community is so looking forward to you coming to national training. It'll be our first in-person event that we've had since 19. So we two years, and we finally got our first one. We will be.
I am so excited. Also, with a name like Pure Romance, oh my God, we could only have a bunch of love. And I am so excited to be my first live gig too.
We are super excited. Mark Schulman, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being on The Secret Is You. We look forward to seeing you in August, my friend.
I look forward to. Thank you so much, Chris. See y'all then. Mwah. Take care.